Hi everyone, Dr. Dan Lawrence here. I'm Associate Professor of Writing at the University of Wisconsin-Superior in the Department of Writing, Language, and Literature. And this is Writing 401, E1, and it is Advanced Rhetoric Theory and Practice. I've taught this course a few times before, but I've redesigned it really nicely here for you with some new books and some new ideas. So happy to have you here, and I hope you enjoy the class. The really broad ideas that we're going to be looking at some recent contemporary rhetorical scholarship. So, if you took my Writing 303 Intro to Rhetoric, we were looking very far back in time, and Hedwana thousands of years ago, Plato, Aristotle 2,500 years ago. We're looking now at really what are rhetorical scholars doing today, and the focus will be on a particular vein of contemporary rhetorical scholarship that looks at non-human communication and the interactions between non-human communication and humans. So things like interspecial communication and animal communication and technology. We have two really great books I've picked out. One is Deborah Hawkey's Rhetoric in Tooth and Claw Animal Communication, a nice kind of clever title there. Um, as subtitle Animals, Language, and Sensation. And then the one we're starting with actually is Rhetoric Through Everyday Things. So remember, rhetoric is the art of persuasion, roughly. We have from Aristotle that idea that rhetoric is the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion. For Plato in Phaedrus, the dialogue Phaedrus, you might remember, was something like matching speech to the soul of the listener. These contemporary ideas about rhetoric are going to expand the scope of what we consider to be rhetorical, what we consider to be persuasive. And for some of you, this might be all new territory. Others, this line of thinking might sound a bit familiar, but I welcome you into the space to think about these things. The way that objects, for example, can influence us and persuade us. Think, for example, a really salient kind of example is just like your smartphone or your cell phone, an object that exists in the world, something, complex technology created by humans, but is the applications on a smartphone and even the operating system and the object itself, the physical properties of the handheld device itself are very compelling and persuasively designed, such that Americans on average are spending something like 3.5 hours every day using these devices. That's an example of an object and the rhetoric of an object and how its effects, right? Its persuasive effects upon us. A rhetorical analysis of that would then be investigating specifically how is it doing that? How is it compelling us? What is it about the device, its applications, the software, the colors, the sounds, the design, the use of language, rhetorical techniques? How is it precisely doing that? That would be then rhetorical analysis, which is what we'll be doing in your paper assignments for this class. So there you have it. I will say right off the bat, the introduction, like the very first reading in the class, is a little dense and stiff. I don't want that to scare you off. There's some kind of grad school level terminology, things like object-oriented ontology. I want to encourage you to really give this a good go. It's a little difficult, but I think you're going to warm up to it. I think it's going to start making sense, especially when you get into that early reading by Marilyn Cooper, who was one of my professors in my doctoral program at Michigan Technological University, actually. I took a course, did some studying under Dr. Cooper. It's really quite a compelling piece So, object-oriented ontology is that fancy academic way of saying that there's a way of viewing the world in a non-human way, right? For most of human history, we've been thinking about the world and from an anthropocentric, excuse me, view, which is to say, placing primacy on the human. And object-oriented ontology just means we're shifting that focus and thinking about the rest of the world, right? Outside of human perception. And it's the that classic thought experiment. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it really make a sound? Maybe you've heard that. And throughout much of human history, there's been a tendency to think uh, it's right. The human must be there to perceive the sound for it to exist. But an object-oriented ontological position would examine the effects outside of the human and examine the ways that that event might influence the world and have shape the experience of other creatures and other things and the very ecosystem of the forest in which the tree fell and the kind of rippling and interesting effects. So there's some terminology like that that you might not be familiar with, and that's okay. Give it a good go, and Google is our friend here. Some not just Google, but your library databases and all of the kind of supplemental research work that you're going to be doing on the side. Which brings me to the next important idea here, which is how is the class structured, and what are we going to be doing? It's structured as a research and writing seminar. So we're going to be developing a research paper for the course. You're going to be drawing from different essays in this book. We have different authors who are all contributing to this text here, Rhetoric Through Everyday Things. It's a collection of essays. So drawing from different essays, drawing points of synthesis and comparison and analysis, bringing ideas together. And then Deborah Hockey is the author entirely of this book. So synthesizing between these two books, synthesizing with what you know from your other classes on rhetoric, maybe bringing in some classical sources from your Plato or your Aristotle or Cicero or Quintilian that you've read in the past, bringing in interdisciplinary perspectives. If, say, for example, you have a minor in psychology, synthesizing something interesting from other classes or other research that you've done, that's welcome here. This is an open and an exploratory and experimental writing space for you to do research writing on something that interests you, themes that emerge from the text that grab you. That's what I want you to do. I want you to enjoy this class and think of it as just like a box in which you can do some very interesting writing. I'm setting up some parameters for you. I'm providing some interesting text that will hopefully inspire you and inspire some new ways of thinking about the world and about persuasion and about writing and about human communication, about the tools and technologies we use to write, about the way that we interface with them, all of these things. So find topics and themes that you gravitate toward and that interest you, and then see where you can expand upon them and work with them. And what I would like to do by the end of the course is I'm hoping to gather up all of our research papers and launch something of an online e-journal, a website where we can all publish our writing, something like the Journal of Rhetoric and Technology. I'm still getting that rolling, but I'll have some updates for you by later in the semester if you're interested in publishing your work, which I think is a really useful thing to do. So that's the goal, is we're going to develop, your midterm assignment here, roughly mid-semester. You'll have a draft of your research paper. I'll provide feedback on that. A topic of your choosing, right? So looking, as you're reading these texts, looking for things that interest you, looking for questions that you have, research questions, looking for parallel subjects that you could analyze, looking for research in the library databases of things that engage you. Be on the lookout for what do you want to write about. Right around the middle of the semester, you'll have that research paper draft that's due, and then by the end of the semester, that final research paper where you'll do a substantial revision and attempt to produce a kind of print ready or ready for publication research paper of some good length, right? We're looking at by the end maybe a 15 to 20 page paper, double spaced MLA. We're in a 400 level class, so I want really good MLA usage throughout, documenting your sources, your in-text citations, your works cited page, your MLA formatting, making sure you're up to speed with all that. And of course, ask me any questions anytime. Send me an email, office hours. We also have a writing center on campus, and they also have remote virtual appointments. So if you need help coming up with ideas, if you just want to bounce around some concepts or brainstorm, or you need specific help with specific MLA questions, our writing center is great for that. That's a nice kind of first stop, and then if you're still having issues, chat with me and let me know how I can help you. So then after the submission of the final research paper, you'll do a really brief reading in a video presentation. You'll upload that where you'll read an excerpt from your paper, talk about your paper a little bit, and then a final reflection for the exam, which is just a reflection on the research and writing process, or reflection on the class. So the main, the kind of central focus of the course is this single research paper that you're going to be developing throughout the course on a topic of your choosing, rather substantial, and attempting to get it into a kind of print ready, publishable status by the end of the semester. So working on this larger research project. And that, my friends, is the idea for the course. I think that's probably enough for this video. I'm going on 13 minutes here, so I don't want to drag it out too long. I'm Dr. Dan Lawrence. This is Writing 401, E1, and we're looking at non-human communication, essentially. We're looking at rhetoric and persuasion outside of the human, which is a really cool idea. How do objects and technology or animals communicate and persuade? And there's just a large world there to explore. So even looking, as you go about the class, looking through your everyday life at the things that influence you and persuade you, and the things that compel you and engage you, those are all ripe for rhetorical analysis. The real things in your life, rhetoric through everyday things, your everyday reality. I know some more examples I always give. It's like, think about clothing, right? I mean, even this Quintilian said the mere look of a person can be persuasive. That's the kind of trajectory now, thousands of years later, we're looking at. We're taking very seriously that idea that not just speech can be persuasive, but objects can be persuasive, that they kind of call to us. They ask us to do things. They're designed in particular ways to influence our perception of reality. And we're packaging all that up in a really nice research and writing seminar. And this is modeled after some of my favorite classes that I had when I was in undergrad. I love just having the opportunity to read some interesting books and write about them. And just we're stimulating some new novel ways of thinking about the world. We're reflecting on contemporary rhetorical scholarship. We're reflecting on our lives. We're bringing all ideas in from other disciplines. We're using library databases. We're practicing a type of research writing and nonfiction writing. And as always, I think that you can think about publication and think about working on a piece that maybe builds into something bigger. Maybe this is the start of a book for you, right? Maybe you've always wanted to write a book about a particular nonfiction topic or something like that, and this could be a place to start working on some of those ideas. Okay, if you need anything, let me know. I hear the cries of children in the background, so I'm going to wrap this up here. Good luck, everyone. Let me know if you need anything.